Hey, brother.
Hey, Al. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
This thing's short right now.
You look really short right
Yeah.
now. Feel better?
Yep.
Good. Well, welcome, everyone, back to another episode of Siblings in Crime. I'm Allie Rossell,
And I'm Blake Murphy.
and just as it sounds, we're siblings who love true crime.
Adore true crime.
That's a weird,
I'm just
weird
kidding.
word choice. Okay.
Just kidding.
One way to put it. But we are back again. This week we're going to be back with another actual murder case. I know last week we mixed it up. But before we dive into the case, how was your week?
My week was good. Didn't do much, but worked on some real estate stuff and didn't fly. I couldn't get to Des Moines because of spring break. So, yeah.
All the flights were full.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. We did have the sex trafficking dinner last week in Utah.
Yep.
And so that was really cool. We have some friends who are really involved in some organization that is like trying to promote and fight against all the sex trafficking things. I really should have came with more information. I can't remember what it was called right now. We'll bring it up again next week because I want to make sure we talk about it because it seems like a really important organization to be involved with to help spread awareness, and it helps survivors with the recovery process. So
Yep.
that was pretty interesting. That was in Utah. And then I have been back as well, not doing all too much either. I flew a bit. I've been working early mornings, so
Nice.
nice to have a day off. So, well, good. Anything else about your week? It sounds like it was pretty uneventful.
No, that's about it. It was good, but, chill.
Cool. Well, you've lived in Arizona your whole life, obviously, or most of your life,
Yeah.
obviously. Today's story is going to take us to Arizona a little bit.
Oh, Arizona, huh?
So I want you thinking about your experiences in Arizona. Do you have any good memories in Arizona? Your favorite memory in the desert?
My favorite memory in the desert is probably hiking with Dad. We'd go hiking a lot with Hunter Foss and Jacob Chernis.
That was fun. I totally forgot about
Alicia
those
Reese.
days. Yeah, hiking was fun. I feel like in high school we'd go to the lake a lot. We'd go out and have like movies out there. That was a lot of fun.
You said desert. You didn't say anywhere.
The lake is in the desert.
Yeah, but that's not what you were meaning
Okay.
in my mind.
Well, yeah, I was just thinking about I feel like there's a lot of good things to be doing. There's tons of hiking. It's beautiful, but obviously there is a lot of dark sides. Crime, dark sides to the desert. It's a very scary place if you're unprepared, especially with those hikes. A lot of people die every year in the Arizona summer. But in our story today, we're actually going to be in the winter in the desert.
Oh,
So you ready to get into it?
I'm ready.
All right, let's roll. Like I said, the Arizona desert is pretty unforgiving. It's a place of isolation and stillness with miles of nothing but dirt and shrubbery. Many things can be left undetected. But in our story today, the secrets held in the desert in 2002 wouldn't stay hidden for long. On the chilling night of December 2nd, a man stumbled forward, his breath ragged, his legs weak. Blood trailed down his forehead, soaking into the collar of his shirt. Mixing with the dust that clung to his skin, every movement was slow, weighted, like his body was already giving up. Behind him, another person stood, a figure barely more than a shadow in the pale moonlight. The gun in their hand was steady, as if it had always been belonged there. The wounded man turned slightly, his face contorted in pain and confusion. Maybe there was a plea forming on his lips, or maybe he thought he still had a chance to make it out alive. But the first shot cut through the silence. His body jerked, the second shot followed, then a third, and the desert swallowed him whole. The gunman stood there staring. The wind stirred in the sand, shifting it, erasing footprints and whispering over the body, cooling in the night air. Then without a word, they turned and disappeared into the darkness. The desert, as always, keeps a silence for now. The body laid undiscovered for days. The Arizona harsh desert turned the once familiar features into something unrecognizable, something claimed by the landscape, but the desert can only hide so much. Details of the story are a little vague. I wanted to find something in Arizona just because we're from here, and so I went down that rabbit hole a little bit. So a lot of things are dependent on the source. So this is going to be based off all the facts of the most commonly reported things.
Okay.
But what we do know is that it didn't take long before a missing persons report went out. And a description was put out with a description of a single 40-year-old man who had 2 children. He was deeply cared for. And his family described him as a man who, quote, treated everybody with kindness and had aspirations of becoming a radiology technician. So
Nice.
he had a bright future, seemed like a nice guy. And so obviously the family provided pictures to the officials asking to help them find their missing loved one.
All right. Is he married or not?
He's single right now.
Single. Okay.
So he's divorced.
Okay. Because you said a single man. Like, I don't know if you're saying he's single or
Like
if there
solo.
was one person there.
Good question.
And then you said kids, and I was like,
yeah, no.
The wife killed him.
That was a jump to conclusion.
Yeah, I know.
He's divorced and he's in this phase of starting over, but he's of course loved by his family. And so they gave him the officials' photos, and pretty immediately it was found out that just 10 days later, there was a discovery in the wasteland of Arizona on December 10th that there was a John Doe found. And it was quick to decide that these pictures matched their John Doe, and it was the missing loved one, Ted Price.
Ted Price.
Ted Price. Sounds like a famous name to me.
Yeah, what part of Arizona is this?
Right now we're out near Beehive, or what is it called? Beeline? Oh my gosh. What is the freeway
Beeline
called?
Highway?
Is it called Beeline?
Yeah.
Okay, then yeah, Beeline. So just like straight over there through Mesa, all the way out town. So I couldn't remember what that highway was called all of a sudden. So not too far. Literally the drive to Sorrel Lake, basically.
Yeah.
Well, Ted Price has always been a man who believed in family. He had actually grown up in Utah, surrounded by the kind of stability that makes a person think that life will always be fair. Sources vary from Ted's obituary as far as marital relationships. So here's like a caveat of there may be discrepancies as far as who he was married to versus long-term girlfriends, because they were kind of interchangeable in our resources. But from what I gather, this is where he met Katherine Lecher. She was beautiful in the way that dangerous things often are, wild, unpredictable, intoxicating, and he loved her, and she loved him back in her own way. When they had children, Ted imagined that that would be enough to ground them and kind of make their marriage stable. Mm-hmm. I feel like I hear that all the time. If marriage is rocky and like decide to have a baby, like I feel like that would not be the solution. Mm-hmm. However, that's what they decided to do. And so they had 2 children together. But addiction doesn't care about love or stability. Katherine fell into methamphetamine usage. Mm. What are the side effects of methamphetamine? Do you know? Meth. Don't call it meth. I can't even speak. Methamphetamine.
I don't know.
Itchy? Really?
I don't know. I'm just kidding.
Like hallucinations, then. I think.
I don't know. Probably.
Anyways, well, regardless, for one reason or another, she fell into heavy usage, and what was just like kind of like a bad habit starting out, it turned into something much worse and spiraled into like full-blown hardcore addiction. Their life became a battlefield. Ted tried to hold things together, but every time he reached for her, she slipped further away. Eventually, he had to make the hardest choice of his life, and he left. Not because he wanted to, but because the woman he had fallen in love with was gone. He never stopped worrying about her, and more than anything, he never stopped worrying about his kids. People are not themselves on addiction, and because of that, he needed to do his best to keep his kids in a safe environment. So at this point, we have Ted. He's married, 2 kids, now separated. And so Ted is going on, years pass. Ted's working on building his own life, which is when he potentially found temporary love again, depending on the resources. But what we know for sure is that Katherine never left that choking hold of addiction all these years while Ted gets new relationships, is single again, bounces back and forth. Katherine kind of stays in the same bubble and doesn't really progress in any way. Mm-hmm. And the people around her only pull her further into this pit. Her peers were just as suffocated by the darkness of addiction as she was, if not more so. She was like, well, she is assumed to have been staying in some sort of like crack house. I don't really want to, it's kind of a harsh word, but she lived with other hardcore druggies with her roommates, and they actually lived in Mesa.
Oh, was thinking AJ.
That was going to be a good guess. No, they're in Mesa. I don't know.
The border of AJ.
Yeah, must be. No, just kidding. So we know that she's in Mesa and she's in harsh conditions because she's amongst people who are also struggling with their own things. Mm-hmm. She's in no position to get better. Ted knew things were bad for Katherine. I don't know how in touch they stayed. Obviously enough because they had children together. But Ted never would have imagined that he'd end up back in Katherine's life. But his plans had to change a little bit. At this time, he had moved to Arizona with the plan to enroll in school, get a degree in radiology, and finally find some stability. So he's moving from Utah, he's coming to Arizona, and he had the motivation, he had the drive, but he didn't have any money. And so in this circumstance, he kind of felt like he was pushed back into a corner because the school grant he was relying on to get started hadn't come through yet. And it left him to rely on the only person that he knew in Arizona, which was Katherine. It wasn't ideal. Their history was messy. Their relationship long since broke. However, Ted had nowhere else to go. So he accepted his fate and made the agreement with Katherine that he would be staying with her temporarily. So this is the first time in years he's seen her.
Uh-oh.
So now we have Ted, we have Katherine. They're staying in the same place. For the first several days, things were pretty civil. I guess they had a mutual understanding. It was a temporary situation until he got his grant. He was going to move on, figure out his life. Great.
Yep.
Ted kept to himself, trying to stay out of Katherine's way, but the tension was always there, lingering beneath the surface, a reminder of why they had fallen apart in the first place. Then after about 10 days, it all boiled over. Maybe it was a minor disagreement, the kind that had been built over time. Maybe old wounds had reopened, disputes about the kids or how they parented could have even been a reason to throw a wrench in the harmony. Regardless of the reason, tension spiked, and whatever unresolved issues remained from the past came back full swing.
Uh-oh.
So whatever caused it, still undetermined, but for whatever reason, voices were raised, argument turned vicious, and words sharpened into weapons. At some point, rage took over, and Katherine, whether in frustration or fear or just desperation, she grabbed the nearest object she could find.
And threw it at him.
What do you think it is?
A fork.
That's a good guess.
What was it?
A telephone. A random object. I was curious if you're going to be in the ballpark. A telephone. Which I'm like, that is so funny. I just imagine a landline. It's like cord. But she struck Ted with it. And the impact actually hit him hard enough to daze him. And the pain throbbed where the hard plastic met his flesh. Maybe he stumbled back, stunned, trying to process what had just happened. Maybe he realized in that moment that coming here had been a mistake. Mm-hmm. He needed to leave the situation. And before he could, the door opened, and Aaron Gunches walked in.
Aaron Gunches?
Yeah, what a weird name. Gunches, I think I'm saying it right. The story Aaron spun was simple. He basically just offered to help. Katherine's...
Help what?
Get Ted out of the situation.
Oh.
Katherine, still fuming from the argument, and others in the house helped load him into Aaron's car.
Is he knocked out or something?
I think he's just wobbled up. He sounds like he has some serious enough injuries where he was shaken up and like really couldn't fend for himself all that well.
So Aaron's just going to help him get to the car?
Yeah, their plan, Aaron was like evidently showing him mercy. His plan was to take Ted to the bus station. So they get in the car.
Is Aaron just a friend?
Aaron's affiliated with Katherine.
Okay.
So they're friends. That group, I should say. The bus station wasn't far, and when they arrived, Ted must have thought for just a moment that things were finally turning in his favor, getting away from this kind of crazy group of people. But then Aaron asked the fatal question if he had any money for his ticket. And like we know, Ted didn't have any money at this time. And so he told him no. And that's when Aaron decided it was time to make one more stop. A quiet place, a private place. But they weren't alone. Sitting in the passenger seat was another person shaking with adrenaline.
When did that person get in there?
Just came along to the bus station. What follows is where our story began. The person sitting in the passenger seat stared out the window, hands folded tightly in their lap. The drive had been quiet, a little too quiet, and Aaron Gunches sat behind the wheel, his fingers tapping against the steering wheel in almost a rhythmic pattern, his face unreadable. In the back seat, we got Ted Price. He's shifting uncomfortably.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's expecting to go to the bus station, and now they're on a detour, unsure of where they are going. Mm-hmm. Maybe he knew something wasn't right. I assume he did. I don't know if he spoke up. Regardless, he had known from the moment Aaron had offered to take him to the bus station that this wasn't an act of goodwill. The car rolled deeper into the desert, the streetlights disappearing behind them, the buildings thinning until there was nothing but silence, dust, and endless stretch of the Arizona night. Then finally, Aaron pulled over. And every time I imagine this, I'm like, we probably have driven on this road so many times. Mm-hmm. Like, how eerie is that, knowing like the actual location of people's horrible endings?
Yeah.
So finally, Aaron pulled over. Ted didn't resist as he was pulled from the back seat. Maybe because he thought this was just a detour, hard to believe, or maybe because he had already resigned himself to whatever was about to happen. Led a short distance away from the car, Ted and the shooter creeped into the shadows of the desert. Then the gunshot, followed by at least 2 more. Ted's body crumpled to the ground, lifeless before he even hit the dirt. For a moment, the world was still. Then, gripping the steering wheel, Aaron and his passenger drove away like nothing happened. And as they drove away, leaving Ted Price's body behind in the desert, she told herself she would forget, but she never did, because you don't forget the sound of an execution. On the drive home, Aaron made the decision right then and there he needed to vanish, which most people do. You do something bad, you get out of town.
Yeah.
Where would you go?
I don't know. Out of the country.
You think?
Mexico.
I feel like I couldn't leave family. I feel like I'd probably not be smart enough and just lay low and try. But you always get caught.
Yeah.
And this was kind of his experience. Aaron was a bad guy. He has a past a little bit. He knows how to vanish. And at this point, Ted's body hasn't even been found. Because he gets home, he dips town. But Aaron wasn't taking any chances, and so he hit the road. The moment Katherine talked or the moment someone noticed Ted was missing, the hunt would be on. So he ran for 3 months. So he's on the run for a long time. He's Forrest Gump. He just can't stop running for some reason. For 3 months, Aaron moved like a ghost, drifting through towns, changing locations before anyone could get too familiar with his face. He likely relied on cash, avoiding credit cards, or anything traceable. Maybe he had help. Maybe he used his old connections, people willing to look the other way. But like we said, no one can really run forever. Mm-hmm. And in March in 2003, his path cut up in the worst way possible. It was a quiet stretch of highway in California when the blue and red lights flashed behind him. Aaron knew immediately that this wasn't just a routine stop. Mm-hmm. Maybe they had his plates, maybe they knew exactly who he was, or maybe it was just bad luck. But an officer running his registration, a simple traffic violation that spiraled into something far bigger. But Aaron Gunches wasn't going to go down without a fight. He knew he was getting pulled over for more reasons than just a traffic violation, and so he
ran.
So he got out of the car and ran. I'm just kidding. Gotcha. But before the officer could fully assess the situation, Aaron had actually pulled out a gun and opened fire on these officers.
Oh, dang.
So scary.
Yeah.
I think about that all the time. Like, poor cops. You have like these super dark tinted windows. That'd be so scary pulling people over and not knowing.
You always have to be on your guard. That's why I feel like they're a little intense when they come up, but it's like they're
probably nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I get really scared if I get pulled over. I can't imagine how they're feeling.
Yeah.
Especially undercover cops. I get so scared. I've only gotten pulled over by one undercover cop. It was a truck. And I was like, I don't think they've ever been in a black truck. I was so scared. Luckily, it was like midday. I've always heard like you can call like the cops and ask if this is a real traffic guy. Yeah. I was this close to doing it, but I was like, it's 2 p.m. Come on, be brave. Be brave. And it was. I just got pulled over and got a warning for speeding, but whatever.
Classic.
I know. I get pulled over for speeding all the time. But anyway, so Aaron pulled a gun on the officers. The crack of gunfire shattered the calm of the highway, bullets cutting through the night. Highway patrol officers scrambled for cover as Aaron fired wildly. It wasn't a strategic firefight. It was a man with his back against the wall choosing violence over surrender. Mm-hmm. For several breathless moments, the air was thick with smoke and chaos. But the officers
Wait, really
outnumbered
fast.
him.
He was traveling for 3 months and only made it to Los Angeles.
California.
Yeah.
He went to Colorado, Utah, California. Maybe he didn't go that far. That's a good point. You would think he would get a little bit further than
Somewhere
that.
else.
Maybe he was just like little ghost small towns and thinking that was good enough and close enough still. That's a good point. But the air, like I said, was chaotic. But the officers outnumbered him. They fired back, pinning him down, closing in. And when the dust settled, Aaron was in cuffs. So no one was harmed in this shooting.
That's good.
His 3-month run was over. From the moment forward, he was no longer a fugitive. He was a dead man walking, even if it would take decades for the execution to finally happen. Fast forwarding, the courtroom was silent as Aaron Gunches sat before the judge. The evidence was overwhelming. The testimony of his passenger on that fateful day was damning. Jennifer Garcia, Katherine's roommate, and the passenger on December 2nd, was the witness and testified of Aaron Gunches murdering Ted Price, was the nail in Aaron's coffin.
I don't really get why they murdered him. Because he didn't have any money. It's not like they could rob him, and they just killed him because they were taking his money.
I don't think it's for his money. I think Aaron was defensive. I'll go into this.
But they already took him to the thing, and he's like, "Oh, I don't have any money." And then he's like, "All right, I'll go kill you instead."
Well, I asked him if he had money for his bus ticket.
I know.
That's like $2.
I know, but I thought they already went to the bus station.
Yeah, they did go to the bus station. Well, that's what they say. They say they went to the bus station. Maybe they didn't go to the bus station. This is what they both testified of. So we assume they went to the bus station. But what I didn't tell you was that Aaron was Katherine's boyfriend, current boyfriend, and also her drug dealer.
Oh.
He was
drug dealer.
very possessive over Katherine at this time, it sounds. And so when he saw her ex-husband, boyfriend, depending on the source, in his space with his girl, seems like he looked any opportunity to get rid of Ted, he would have taken it. So whether that would have been for money, it probably doesn't matter. I think he just had to do what he felt like he needed to do.
So he waited 10 days, or did he just come back after 10 days and then they were fighting?
So he must have come back a little bit later. I'm not sure if he was there every day and was cool with it for a little bit until Katherine and Ted got in an argument, or if he was kind of not really around the house until that day. It sounds like he knew that Ted was staying there, didn't love it, but when Ted and Katherine got physical, kind of tipped him over the edge.
Yeah.
And Jennifer, one of the roommates, was the one with him and able to testify that this all happened. And because of her testimony, the verdict was inevitable, and he was charged guilty with first-degree murder.
Dang.
The years that followed were filled with appeals, delays, slow crawl towards the only ending the story could have, until finally the day came. On March 19th, 2025.
Wow.
I was waiting for that to register.
I was like, March 19th, 2025?
Yeah. March 19th, 2025. So a week ago?
Yeah.
Crazy.
6 days.
Aaron Gunches was led into the execution chamber.
Oh, wow. In Arizona?
In Arizona.
Dang.
And evidently, this is the first with a Democratic Party mayor ever in Arizona or something along those lines.
Wow.
Some weird statistic. I don't really know which one. But he was led to the execution chamber just last week. Supposedly 10 days ago or something. I don't know.
Not 10.
However many days. I don't know what day is it today.
It's 25th.
The 25th. So 6 days ago?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So less than a week ago. Aaron Brian Gunches, 53 at this time, was lethally injected at the Arizona State Prison Complex in the town of Florence. And John Barcelo, deputy director of Arizona's Department of Corrections, told news outlets how it went. He was pronounced dead, Aaron, at 10:33 a.m. Sitting up on a gurney, covered with what looked like a white onesie and tucked in with a sheet, Gunches looked straight ahead and had no final words before the execution. This is what witnesses told KFOX 14. He also denied having any like spiritual priest or anyone there with him during his execution.
Dang.
According to Barcelo, the prisoner took a few heavy breaths and let out a snoring type sound after the lethal injection. He goes on to say, by all accounts, the process went according to plan without any incident at all.
Jeez.
For his last meal, Aaron had a double Western bacon cheeseburger, 2 sandwiches, French fries, onion rings, and a baklava. I don't know what that is.
What was it called?
Baklava. This was his dessert of choice as his last meal.
It's a pastry.
What kind of pastry?
It's like the ones with like the flaky top.
Oh, like a scone-looking thing? Oh. Wow, I would not choose that as my last dessert. Maybe I need to try one.
Yeah.
The lethal injection was administered through IVs inserted into Aaron's arms. And then there was silence. The justice of a case over 20 years ago had finally been served for the murder of Ted Price.
Wow.
Which is crazy. This happened last week.
Yeah.
Even now, obviously, questions remain. Did Katherine know what Aaron planned to do that night? Did she send Ted to his death, or was it just another idea of Aaron? Aaron was a bad guy, I guess. He had a really bad past. He had violent behavior. So people who knew Aaron didn't think it was beyond him to do something like this. But we don't know if Katherine told him to or not.
Oh, wow. That'd be weird.
Yeah, although Katherine was never charged with any involvement, according to reports, after the altercation between Katherine and Ted, she contacted Aaron asking him to take care of the situation. So that can be interpreted however you choose. Some people say, like, help her in the situation. Some people think it means to actually take him out. This suggests that Katherine may have had knowledge of Aaron's intentions towards Ted. However, specific details about her level of involvement or foreknowledge are not fully detailed in any available sources I could find.
Dang.
But both Katherine and Jennifer, who was the witnessed the murder, went for the drive. Both were never charged.
Jennifer went on the drive too?
Jennifer was the only one on the drive. She was the passenger.
Oh, you said you wouldn't tell me.
I know, but I told you later.
Oh, I just thought it was the other girl.
Maybe you should start paying attention. Assumptions. I even did a dramatic pause to see if you would notice.
I thought you said it was just the roommate that witnessed the
murder.
Oh, I thought you were talking about witness the scraffle.
No, Jennifer was a roommate of Katherine's, and she went with Aaron to take Ted to the bus station, which ended up leading to the desert. And she's the one that was in the passenger seat, witnessed Ted's murder, and went back to the house. Aaron dipped. He left her there.
These ladies seem sketchy to me.
All the girls seem sketchy. Everyone seems sketchy to me.
Yeah.
She's the one that went on to testify, though, of everything she saw, and she's the reason that he was actually charged and put to death.
Yeah. Dang.
So crazy, because I was thinking maybe she had to have some sort of plea deal, because she was a witness and she didn't come forth right away. Like, I don't think it was an immediate thing. But I was kind of surprised to see that she didn't have any sort of any plea deal that I could find.
Yeah.
But both Jennifer and Katherine were never charged with any involvement.
Dang, that's crazy.
Right. But one truth remains. Ted Price obviously was a father, a brother, a man who didn't deserve what happened to him. And now his story lives on, not just in the echoes of what was taken, but in the love he left behind. And this is the story of Ted Price.
Dang, that's wild.
I know. I found it so
Especially
interesting.
right next door, and also a couple days ago.
Right. I know. I was interested because I
happened.
looked up. I wanted to see what's been going on in Arizona, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing that kept popping up the most, is that there was finally an execution of this murderer.
Yeah.
So I wanted to learn a little bit more about it, and that's what it led to. But
Jeez.
I was like, how scary for Ted. He's in town for like 10 days. He wants to go to radiology school, trying to get his life together. Barely just came across the wrong people.
Yeah. Very wrong people.
So sad. So I just want to share that story. That's our case for this week. Do you have any questions or trivia for me? Facts?
just one that's kind of scary.
Okay.
It says if you kill someone in America today, there's a 38.4% chance you won't get caught. There are 6,012 unsolved murders in 2017. Yeah, that's kind of wild.
That's a huge number.
Yeah.
This is not an invitation to go do anything stupid.
Yeah.
But that is wildly alarming. Why do you think that is?
I do feel like it's probably higher than back in the day.
Probably just more reported now, don't you think?
More reported, and I think there's just
People
more
are
ways to
madder.
find bad people.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's probably up, but there's also probably so many murders that like it's hard to have the manpower to find them all.
It's probably hard to have like correct numbers too. That's a wild stat. Why do you think that many cases are going unsolved?
I think there's just not enough people to find everyone that's murdering people.
Oh, so there's like not enough people looking.
Yeah, well, yeah, and just like if there's not a break in the case early, then there's 5 more cases that stack up on it, and they're like, I gotta move on.
That's true. You hear that all the time with like cold cases. Like there's only one guy looking at cold cases.
Yeah.
That's true. So this is an invitation to go be a detective.
Yeah.
We need them, that's for sure. That is a really startling fact, though.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, well, that's all I have for you today. Kind of a shorter case. I just thought it was really interesting. But we will be back next week with another episode of Siblings in Crime. See ya.
Bye.